So, yesterday there were so-called peace talks in Saudi Arabia, and the reactions have been quite telling. From the Russian and American sides, there is complete enthusiasm. As far as I understand, the only result of these negotiations was the decision to continue the dialogue and to fully restore the diplomatic relations. Most notably, to restore the staffing levels of embassies and other diplomatic missions. And once again, I emphasize that both the American and Russian delegations parted ways with great enthusiasm for each other, unlike the president of Ukraine. President Zelensky expressed his stance on the recent U.S. Russia negotiations as follows. He remained in the same position he held at the start of the war, when Moscow demanded a reduction in Ukraine's armed forces, recognition of the occupied territories as part of Russia, and the installation of pro-Russian government in Ukraine. Zelensky has repeatedly stated that no real negotiation concerning Ukraine can take place without Ukraine's participation. Trump constantly refers to a supposed lost opportunity to negotiate peace in the past. However, Zelensky firmly stated that no agreements were made, neither in Istanbul nor during talks in Belarus. And this is indeed true. All these speculations, and here Trump merely repeats Putin's narratives that there was once a chance to negotiate peace, but Johnson, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he ruined everything. This is Putin's lie, which Trump is now repeating. At the moment, Trump is fully adopting Putin's rhetoric and launching attacks on Zelensky. Trump even stated that Russia has shown great willingness to stop the war, claiming that it wants to stop the barbarism that is happening there, that its soldiers are dying by the thousands and cities are being destroyed. According to Trump, Russia has limited its destruction because it is supposedly saving its missiles, suggesting that if it wanted to, it would have occupied 100% of Ukraine instead of 20%, which is insane. This is some, la la land. This creates the impression that Putin desperately wants to stop the war, as if the war is some uncontrollable phenomenon with no connections to Russia or Putin himself. In this narrative, Putin is portrayed as a benevolent humanitarian, a rescuer working alongside Trump to stop the war, as if he has nothing to do with starting it. But any reasonable person understands that Putin could stop the war in an instant, perhaps within 2 seconds, the time it would take to issue an order to withdraw all troops from Ukraine. That would end the war immediately. It's also possible that the war could have ended even if Russia has returned to the borders of February 24, 2022, to the borders full-scale invasion. So, all of Trump's talk about Putin supposedly wanted to stop the war is blatant and absurd lie. Beyond this, Trump's support for Russia comes with direct attacks on Ukraine. In response to Zelensky's complaint that Ukraine is being discussed without its participation, Trump replied, "I heard that they are upset that they don't have a seat at the negotiating table, but they had a seat for 3 years, and long before that they could have resolved everything," something like this. And when you hear what Trump is saying, it's just insane. He is as if I'm listening to the crazy person. Trump made this statement while speaking to journalists at his Florida residence. He continued that we Ukrainians could have made a deal long ago, that any half-decent negotiator could have made this deal. That's idiotic. I mean, if the deal means, in his understanding, means to capitulate, yes, we could capitulate, but we decided not to. This demonstrates Trump's complete detachment from reality. He suggests that making a deal would have been easy, but why didn't the US make a deal with Hitler during World War II, for example? Oh, right, I forgot. There was no Trump there. If Trump had been around back then, World War II would have never happened. In fact, no wars would have happened if Trump had been present everywhere. I don't understand how people can still support Trump, excuse him, and say these are just words. This is the most terrifying position imaginable. As if words don't matter in politics. As if political actions aren't based on words. Putin's famous Munich speech in 2007 was also just words, but look at what followed. Words are the primary weapons of a politician. And Trump is now engaged in an all-out verbal assault on Zelensky. Let me emphasize, both Trump and Putin are currently focused on the political destruction of Zelensky. Trump has fully endorsed holding elections in Ukraine, stating that the support for Zelensky among Ukrainians has fallen to 4%. If we are going to sit at the negotiating table, then the Ukrainian people must decide. That's direct position from Putin, who was saying that Zelensky is not a legitimate head of the Ukrainian state, and so he cannot sign an agreement with Zelensky because he is not legitimate. So Trump is saying that we should hold elections in order to be able to sit at the negotiation table with Putin. There hasn't been an election in a long time. It's not Russia telling Ukraine to hold elections. This is an objective reality. No, it's not objective reality. This is Russian position, and this is the position that was taken by Trump under direct Russian influence. He then claimed that Zelensky support is only at 4%. I don't like to say it, but that's the truth. And then came an implied threat that if Ukraine doesn't account for where half of US aid has gone, it will have to pay for it. And this is, again, I mean, when Zelensky said it, it's not like some amount of American aid just disappeared. No, he was saying that half of the aid it was not going to Ukraine. It was spent in the United States. That was the aim. And now Trump maliciously is trying to present as if half of the aid was stolen. Not. It was not stolen. It was spent in United States. It was not. It was not supposed to go in Ukraine at the first place. It was allocated to be spent in the United States to how to say to replace what was sent to Ukraine, to replace it with new stocks. That's why the half of the aid was spent in United States. This is, of course, astonishing statement. The claim that Zelensky support has fallen to 4% is completely unfounded. Who provided this figure? I think Putin. During his phone conversation, or maybe some other conversations, because they were clearly speaking quite a lot between themselves and through, I mean, directly and probably through intermediaries as well. According to Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, as of December, trust in Zelensky stood at 52%, with 39% expressing distrust. And this is after 3 years of brutal war, after a lot of disappointments, after a year of retreat. We are retreating in Donetsk region. We are slowly, but retreating with all inefficiencies, which is blatantly, visible to all Ukrainians. But still, Zelensky approval rating is 52%. Yes, Zelensky support has declined from 77% at the end of 2023, and now it is 52%. But let's be clear, 52% it is not 4%, and it is better than Trump has. That it's better than Trump's own approval rating. And you should understand that after such a joint attack from both Putin and Trump, when Trump revealed himself as a true Putin's puppet and an enemy of Ukraine, direct threat to Ukraine, Zelensky rating, when he didn't, budge, he didn't sold our country to them, his rating will increase. So it's bullshit. So once again, congratulations to Trump for his thousands or perhaps millions lie. And regarding the attacks on Zelensky, they are perfectly synchronized between Trump and Putin. At the same time that Trump is demanding elections in Ukraine, Putin is making similar demand. Putin has stated that he is ready to negotiate with Zelensky, but the issue of the Ukrainian president's legitimacy must be considered, and then something similar was said by Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. So in reality, they are both, Putin and Trump, they are both attacking the same target, Zelensky. It is clear that this simultaneous attack from Trump and Putin serve the same goal, the destabilization of Ukraine. The demand for election in a wartime country is an obvious attempt to undermine Ukraine's internal stability. For you to understand that, for example, during World War II, Great Britain hadn't had elections from 1935 till 1945. So for 10 years, they haven't had elections. And this is quite normal for countries not to be distracted from fighting their external enemies, but by internal, division, which will, look at you Americans, look at your own election, which you held 4 years. Do you think that it will help if, for example, some other country invaded your country? Would it, and then, 20% of United States was occupied by this other country, would it help to have such divisive elections that you held, for example, in 2020 or 2024 or 2016? And any past elections were quite divisive. So is it really worth it to divide the country? And I would tell you that both prime candidates, the rivals of Zelensky, previous President Poroshenko and our previous chief military guy, Zaluzhny, who is now the ambassador to United Kingdom. So both of them, they said that it is not time to make elections. They both agree, and they are real rivals of Zelensky. They both agree that now it is not the time. We should first win. We should first preserve our country and secure our future, and then, only then, we should try to decide who will be the head of the state afterwards. the demand for elections in a wartime country is an obvious attempt to undermine Ukraine's internal stability. This is precisely why Trump and Putin are acting in unison as accomplices in this effort. And the final note about so-called peace process. Following the meeting in Riyadh, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov explicitly stated that the deployment of NATO peacekeeping force in Ukraine is unacceptable under any so-called peace agreement. So they will not agree to any, and it won't, any forces from NATO countries in Ukraine will be unacceptable for Russia. Even if they are not covered by Article 5, or even if they are not as a part of a NATO contingent, even if it is just some kind of other coalition. So any so-called peace plan where Trump's or anyone else's has already been dismissed by Russia, because all of them are calling for some kind of peacekeeping, or it's not peacekeeping, some kind of reaction force, some kind of enforcement, some kind, and you know that they are not agreeing to that because they would like to be able to break this agreement at any time. They think it's a good time to break it, and they don't want to have any opposition for that. So all these discussions that are now in European countries, which countries will send how many troops, whatever, they are useless. Russia will never agree to this, as it was just confirmed by Lavrov, because they don't want peace. They want total destruction of Ukraine. So why should they agree to anything that will make their goal more difficult? And when they are saying about NATO threat, in Ukraine, of course they felt threatened by NATO. They felt threatened that their goal would be unachievable to annex Ukraine if Ukraine was a part of NATO. So they felt a great threat to their plans to annex Ukraine. That's why they were opposing. That's why they were adamant that Ukraine should not be part of NATO, because it was interfering with their plans to attack our country and to the plans for total destruction of Ukraine. So this disagreement, what Lavrov said, that the presence of armed forces under any flag changes nothing, this is entirely unacceptable. This once again confirms that Trump's mission is doomed to fail. And the main reason it is impossible, it is because the only person who can truly end this war is Putin, and it is clear from everything we see that he has no intention to do so. Thank you for watching. Till next time, Slava Ukraini!